Hey folks, this is the video. Instead of trying to do something on PowerPoint or using a computer, I'm going to kind of go old school on you, kind of old school in a new school kind of way. So we're going to talk about a model, and I think that model will help show you real quick how the influence of the followers and the influence of the situation all come together. So this is actually a model that I came up with actually for my dissertation, but it's been real helpful over the years to kind of conceptualize and make sense of leadership. So what we're going to do is I'm going to draw a surface over here. I'm going to kind of draw it and make it look like something standing here like this. Okay, so we have this surface and a wall, some type of wall, and then over here we're going to have something that looks like looks like a light bulb. Okay, so that's a light bulb. And then my question would be, what we want to do is we want to maximize, if this were to hooked up and could be turned on, how can we maximize the brilliance of the light from the light bulb that is striking the wall? Again, the wall is defined. It's not all encompassing. It's like a room. It's just kind of on one little surface. So we have to go over here first and make sense of the light bulb. And I would argue that there are three ways that we can modify or manipulate that light, the light bulb, to bring about the brilliance of the light over here on this wall. Okay, the first one, we can increase the energy. So instead of maybe a 60 watt bulb, if we had a 120 watt bulb, then we'd have more light coming off of it. So one of those things, I'll write it up here, I'll write energy. Okay, so that's one of them. Okay, the second one, we could manipulate where this light bulb is in relation to the wall over here. So we can change the distance. We can make it closer or we can make it farther away. As you make it closer, the relationship between illuminance intensity and distance is actually related to the inverse squared. So if you have the distance, 1/2, take the inverse of that, squared, it's actually 4 times brighter. So if you cut the distance in half, it becomes 4 times brighter. If you double the distance, take the inverse, 1/2, square, that's 1/4. So the distance has a lot to do with the brightness of this. Okay, so the second one we can do is we can write distance up here. And then the third thing we can do is kind of like what we do with a flashlight or a headlight in a car. We get some kind of reflective surface and put it behind it. And so like a mirror. And so the light that would normally escape off this way would then get caught into this mirror and be thrown forward. All right, so with that one, we can focus the energy, focus the light. Okay, so 3 things. We can change the energy, we can give it more energy, we can change the distance, and then we can focus or redirect some of that light. So all 3 of those are going to help over here. But with this model to work, now this is a dynamic metaphor model. It's kind of based, I got to kind of depart from reality just a little bit for this to work, but pretty much I think you should be able to see this when we're all done. So another thing we need to do is right here in between the two, we're going to draw a set of lenses. We're going to draw a lens. So this would be a glass lens. And this light that comes over here and bounces off kind of weird, instead of being lost, these lenses are going to do what's called columnate the light. So it's going to catch this light and it's going to be bent so that it would send the light directly on to the wall. Okay, but for this to work, I'm not just going to have one lens, I'm going to have a series of lenses. And all of those working together are going to help capture this light and send it onto the wall. All right, lenses. And then we're going to have to do one more little thing. I'm going to have another set of lenses right here. And they kind of do the same thing. Obviously, they don't have to columnate the light, but they're going to have another property. So the lenses, if you think about those, they have kind of 3 properties. They can be neutral and they can let the light pass through it. They'll still columnate the light, but to let it pass through it, they won't filter it. So it may be, and then another characteristic is that some of the lenses may be darkened, or they may have impurities in them that would mess up some of the light from coming through. So we're going to say that some of these can filter, they can take a brighter light, and because they're darker or they have a problem with them, they can actually reduce the amount of light coming through. Same with this other set of lenses. So as the light comes through, maybe straight through, the stuff coming through the middle, it's going to come through. And if there are problems here, some of these lenses may be darkened a little bit. Then we're also going to have a reduced amount of light that actually comes through and hits the wall. All right, so that's kind of the model. And I hope you can see that maybe this could move, it can change. As these become darker, we need to clean them. As these become darker, we need to clean them. We need to constantly be aware, and maybe even this is moving around a little bit, but we want to maximize the brightness here. We need to keep these lenses nice and clean, keep these lenses nice and clean, increase the power of the light, refocus it and change the direction. Okay, now as far as a leadership model goes, let's kind of talk about what this is. Okay, so over here, this wall and the light, the energy hitting the light, this is going to be performance. Okay, and performance and goals are highly related. So goal attainment, kind of at its most basic, performance is going to be goal attainment. There's a lot of other stuff that can come into play too, but at its heart, performance is going to be goals. And did you reach your level of goals? How much energy are you throwing into the performance? This one, you may have figured out, this one is the actual leader. Okay, that is the leader. And so when we talk about the leader, we can talk about their energy. And actually, in Stogdell, Bass's Handbook of Leadership, it talks about energy as it relates to the leader. It says that energy is actually one of the greatest characteristics related to successful leadership. The amount of energy that the people put into their role and what they do. So the leader, this one, I don't know if you figured it out yet. This is what kind of the chapter 11 is that we're doing. These are the followers. This is the team. And then this one, this is kind of the weird one. This is going to be perceptions. And I know that it looks like this marker is dying on me. These are going to be perceptions of the leader by the followers. Also known in our power chapter, which we'll come back to, these are really the power bases. And do we perceive that person as having expert, you can go back to French and Raven, are they perceived as having expert power, referent power, legitimate power, reward power, and coercive power? The followers, these are characteristics of the followers. So some of them can be individual level phenomena, and some of them can be group level. So cohesion is one of the concepts that we've talked about. The expertise, the goals, the motivation. You can go back down and look at the individual levels. You can look at their self-efficacy. You can look at their personality types. You can look at the ability to work together in a positive and productive manner. So if their characteristics of the group or the followers are poor, you have people who don't get along with each other. They don't know what to do. Maybe there's some infighting. Maybe there's some power plays going on in politics. If those things are happening, it's gonna detract from the group's ability to do a good job. And so what the leader needs to do is constantly assess the group and the followers to keep those lenses as clean as possible. Whenever things arise that detract or keep the light from coming through, they got to clean them up. Also, the leader needs to be constantly aware of how the followers perceive him or her. So going back to the ideas, and you can just think of this, like I said, it's most basic, those perceptions of power. Are you perceived as an expert? Are you perceived as someone worthy of admiration and respect? Do they perceive you as a legitimate authority, kind of regardless of whether the position manual, policy manual says you are or not? You constantly have to be aware of these things. Okay, and then lastly, it's all going to come over and hit performance. Now, to depart from reality just a little bit, I said that there are kind of three characteristics. It can let the light go through in kind of a neutral way. It can also filter the light and keep light from passing through. And then the third part is it can do similar to a laser, light amplification through the stimulated emission of radiation. Okay, we're also going to depart slightly from the laws of physics and allow these lenses to also enhance the light that comes through it. So the leader may get things started, but because you have a strong team that works well together and understands what they're supposed to do, you can actually boost. These things can almost create their own energy and light from a weaker source. So it boosts the light that comes through. If the leader is seen as really strong, charismatic, one worthy of following, the light that comes through, this can boost too. So those perceptions of the leader by the followers can enhance, it can just be neutral, or it can detract from the ability to perform. Same with the followers. So as you think through this, I want you to see this as a dynamic model, that this is constantly changing, and as the one in charge, you're constantly aware of how your energy, your perceived energy, the distance, are you in with the people or are you farther away? Using that formula from physics, the closer you are, the more influence you're going to have. The farther away, you're going to lose it. So to be involved, to be in close, not to have your energy spread in all different directions, but keep those energies focused on what the task is at hand. Have a good, strong group that doesn't have a lot of things that filter or detract from performance, but to let the group kind of grow and develop and mature and be self-active. Boost performance through there, boost performance related back to yourself through these perceptions. You hit the goals and the performance over here. Now to make it even more complicated, so you should see this thing constantly moving and changing and sliding around. But if you think that within a leader's job, think about your jobs, this is just one task. This is one group of people on one task. And in real life, you're going to have multiple goals. You're going to have multiple groups. So this is one group. Right now I'm working with you all, my Texas A&M Corpus Christi group, but I've also got other groups that I teach. And so my energies have to be focused and directed and pointed in different places at different times. And what we're trying to do is going to differ as well. And what works, the performance at the beginning is going to be different from the performance at the end. This should be stronger at the end than at the beginning, working with new people. So just an interesting, this is called a metaphor model. I call it the leadership lens model, just to kind of understand how leadership and teamwork and all that works. So this is for your reflection, your Sunday reflection for this week. Just watch it. Watch the video, think through it, and then see if it makes sense. Do you have examples of how this applies in your life, at your job? And then the lessons you might be able to take into the future. So that's it.